Hello, everybody, and welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name's Suj.
And my name is James.
While we still have football, James, the world revolves around Fantasy Premier League.
We do still have football, although I know Boris has announced another fucking press conference for 5 o'clock later today.
Oh, madness, mate. Madness.
We should be all right. We should be in the clear. I would still advise for those who are looking to use their free hit chip in game week 18 to not quite do anything just yet, because do remember that he did tell everybody in this country to enjoy Christmas and then changed his mind very quickly. So,
football has always been a bit slower to react anyway. I think, if you look at the initial first lockdown and then football followed a little while later with their shutting down of games, which is why I think that we will see football stopped. I know we're both probably of differing opinions here, but I really think that this new strain is spreading like I don't know, Carl Walker at a party or something. Carl Walker's spreading his hands at a bunga bunga party. I don't know. It's just not good.
It's really interesting, because this time last week I was fairly convinced that probably after game week 16 we probably wouldn't have football for a while, and now I'm actually very confident that it probably will continue. And yet you now feel the opposite.
Yeah. Mad.
Interesting. I think we'll be all right.
Well, we'll see. Yeah, we really will see. Game week 17 has now finished, James. And I did my usual party trick.
Green arrow.
Beating you by 1 point. It seems to be every other week. Was a very difficult week. A lot of people, look at the average. 56 points is very, very high. Kicked off over the weekend with just a lot of the big boys returning, with so many of the FPL community on Twitter already thinking about free hit or double game week. The likes of Soucek and West Ham defence were already in a lot of teams. Bruno did the business. Son and Kane did the business. So I think the weekend started off looking like this is going to be a monster weekend. And then kind of, as it always does, levelled out a little bit by the end.
Yeah, I was on 49 from 5 and I finished on fucking 59.
Yeah, it's mental, isn't it?
59 points for me this week, which is literally from Soucek, Bruno Fernandes, captain Harry Kane. Lots of late clean sheets going by the wayside. Good evening or good morning even to James Justin and John Stones. Or also just going very, very early. Good morning to Trent Alexander-Arnold and Andrew Robertson. Salah blank, Rafinha blank, Bamford blank. Sam Johnson 2-pointer in a 4-0 defeat feels like glory. Yeah, 59 points. Only my third red arrow of the season, Suj. I dropped about 11k, which sounds amazing because everyone hears that and thinks, wow, he must have a great rank, James. No, still about 1.4 or 1.5 million or something.
Wow.
We're going to get there over the next couple of weeks, though.
Yeah, no doubt. I had a 60-point game week. I made the one free transfer, which worked incredibly well in the end, to be honest with you. I sold Che Adams and I bought Chris Wood because off the back of Scott Parker's press conference, I thought, I feel like this game is probably just about going to go ahead and Fulham are probably going to have to put out a depleted side, so I'll take it. Ended up, Che Adams didn't play and Chris Wood didn't play, so much of a muchness, no returns there. But I had Soucek, Son, Bamford, Fernandes, Vardy. So Bamford didn't return. Vardy and Soufal were the ones that returned for me. Cancelo, Dallas, Robertson, Johnston, and Bamford didn't. And obviously McCarthy, now my goalkeeper's got COVID. Although touch wood, he'll be back by game week 19 when I'm going to need him. So that's all okay. And on we go into game week 18.
Yeah, just out. For those who are obviously planning for the bench boosts, there's obviously people like McCarthy and Adams obviously missed out for Southampton last night. Adams was concussion, which I don't know why that wasn't reported. You also have to ask questions why apparently it was concussions. I don't know why he carried on playing for in the game against you when he got kicked in the head.
Nothing happened. No, he didn't get kicked. It was just a little touch on his head.
You have to ask questions why he continued to play so long then. But nevertheless, right, it falls into a 7-day protocol of concussion, can't play again.
Yeah.
So he should be fine for the double game week. McCarthy as well has got COVID now. He ain't going to have COVID by the time game week 19 comes around in, 11 days away or so. We shouldn't do anyway, touch wood. So if you've got those sort of players, I'd far rather they miss out in game week 17 than game week 19, I think, unless, of course, there will be people out there, again, who only end up with, say, 10 players or so. But I think, look, benches helped everyone massively this week for a lot of people. Souček, Soufal, Aaron Cresswell. So
Yes.
I saw a few teams on Friday after game week 1. It was like 28 points from Soufal, Cresswell and Souček sitting on the bench. Might have got some of that. It might have got none of it. I might have got all of it. I've no idea. So a few benches, there were a lot yesterday once the Southampton team dropped. Were like, oh, I've got Souček now. Loads.
Yeah. And that's probably an interesting segue into the games. As we do each and every week with Planet FPL, we'll give you a rundown of the games, thoughts around them, what we're thinking moving forward. And we will touch on chip strategy. The truth is, the general thinking hasn't changed really, but we're just all waiting. It's now stick with the plan, but be ready to change if we get different information in the next week or so. But we will obviously cover off some of that stuff as well. But we did have 9 games this week, so almost a full set of games, James.
We obviously did a podcast yesterday. Our People's Poll pod this week was focused on free hit game week 18 and kind of different ways you can play it. So by all means, have a listen back to that. That's not going to be any different now to what it was yesterday. I do feel there is a surge of momentum within the Twitter FPL community towards wildcarding now rather than free hit. And I think the immediate benefits to that are massive. You can obviously wildcard out any problems you've got, and you can target straight away the amended fixtures of obviously United in 18, City in 19, and you can load up your team with 6 United, 6 City, bit of Villa, bit of Burnley, whatever you like for the doubles. Leave that on the bench in game week 18. Sounds great. There's no doubt in my mind that for those wildcarding now, they're going to get the best of 18, 19. They should do, right? They're closer to the bench boost than, say, those of us who wildcarded in game week 16. My issue with it is there's still another 19 game weeks to go after game week 19. That's the big issue.
Yep.
And I don't know, it completely depends on how it falls, whether you're going to then be able to maneuver 26, 29. Of course, the benefit of that route is you will still have the free hit. So once you know the FA Cup fifth round results, after game week 24, and you can make your strategy, whether you're free hitting in 26, planning to 29, or the other way round. I just feel like 19 weeks is a long time, because the perfect in case is, everybody's talking now about moving off Salah, right? Liverpool have been poor the last 3 games, certainly by their standards anyway. Let's get Kevin De Bruyne back. So before this weekend, it was all jokes about Kevin De Bruyne hasn't scored a goal from open play this season. Salah's blanked in 3 games, and it's like we've forgotten what happened in the first 15 game weeks or so.
Yep.
It's fine to make that move. What I'm saying is, what you feel now, guess what? In 4 or 5 game weeks, is probably going to feel different again. The advantages, of course, is if you're on a treble Liverpool at the moment, you want to come off it because you think, I'm on, I don't know, Robertson, Mane and Salah, and you think, I don't fancy them anymore. Fine, jump off. You do have a very difficult run following the double, but I just remind everyone that they've got 2 home games in game week 19, and they don't fuck up often at Anfield. It's the away forms are concerned. 2 away wins is astonishing.
The situation now, though, really is that both Manchester clubs winning their games in hand and all the rest of it can leapfrog these guys. So where they've had a comfortable cushion, there's no room for them to be pissing about. Like, if Manchester City are carrying the form forward that they showed against Chelsea, I think 5 of their next 7 games are teams in the bottom 7 or something stupid like that. Liverpool don't have room to slip up anymore, because we could be talking about the complete opposite 7 games from now, where City have opened up a lead. So Liverpool are going to have to go for it. And a motivated Liverpool makes for good FPL assets. Without
it must be said, I thought that before they went to Newcastle, and obviously didn't work out. And you would have thought that again with another sort of 5-day break to the Southampton game. They can't even complain about the fixtures. They had the best spread. They basically picked their first team in all 3 games. You can't believe they picked up 2 points from West Brom and Newcastle. Southampton can happen because they're a good side, as we saw last night. And they defended so well, Saints. But then you talk about City's fixture run. Of course, like, it can't be ignored. It's unbelievable. But you can't what happened at Chelsea has no bearing on the fixtures unless he decides, oh shit, I do need more footballers in the team. Let me regularly pick Bernardo Silva and Phil Foden, which I think would be a smart idea. But you never know what Guardiola's going to do. The way City played against Chelsea can't have any bearing on what happens when they play Brighton or Crystal Palace. They're completely different games.
Starting with the games then, Friday night football, which was New Year's Day, second year in a row, West Ham win. Everton 0, West Ham 1. What an amazing way to start the new year.
Terrific, mate. Loved it. Yeah, brilliant.
I think it was a classic case of so much football in such a short space of time that we talked about it on the previous pod, that you don't end up getting a lot of good football matches because the games are coming thick and fast, and like the double pivot in the middle of Souček and Rice has been consistent throughout all of the games. Noble's come in there as well, but he's been an addition. So we're looking at the game overall. It was garbage on the whole.
That first half was dreadful, mate.
Couldn't keep the ball. Everyone just kept kicking it to each other. But then from a defensive point of view, the effort that the team put in, the West Ham team, and to be fair, the Everton team as well, defensively, they kept in very good shape. I was just so happy with the work rate and the effort put in off the back of so many fixtures in such a short space of time. Agbonner at the back was immense. He had one of his best games, heading everything away. He was just everywhere. And it ended up, if you keep it tight and keep it 0-0, then you've always got a chance. And the thing with Souček is, you put a tweet out, how does he do it? Because he gambles. He's one of those players that he'll gamble on an opportunity coming up and make the forward run or put himself in the right spot. And he did again. And we ended up nicking it at the end. And honestly, it felt so sweet to win a game like that at the end. It felt so sweet.
I well know how he does it, by the way. It's almost forgotten that in the actual build-up to the goal, that he had the original shot that was saved as well. Right? Yeah. It's almost completely forgotten. He is a brilliant FPL asset. I think for me and you, he's probably the one we're probably most pleased about from the whole season. The fact we stuck there when he was doing nothing, dropping to 4.9 and stuff, and was like, it's inevitable. At some point,
every week he was having chances. He's got 5 goals and an assist. In theory, you could say 6 goals because of the Jimenez little kind of deflection. It's fantastic returns, and he's going to keep going. I think he's good for at least another 6 or 7 goals this season.
He's certainly brilliant for the double game week in 19 as well. I felt, Suj, is it simplicity to say that the game essentially was decided by the fact that Antonio came on? Because it felt like once he did, the rest of your team had the belief that the game was there to be won.
The thing I like about Antonio is when he's coming on the pitch, as fans, we're thinking, get in, Antonio's coming on. As defenders, they're thinking, oh shit, Antonio's coming on. So the psychological impact he has is almost as big as the actual physical impact that he has, because as defenders, you're thinking, shit, this guy's coming on. And so much is being made of him. I mean, Haller, again, was quite ineffective. I thought you could make a case to say that Everton were excessively physical in Holgate and Godfrey, but they weren't OTT. It was just a physical game, and Haller didn't cope. But Antonio, when he came on, and he could have scored at the end as well, right? And it's just such a typical pick the ball up, just barge my way through and get a shot off type of Antonio situation. So yes, and it's as much the psychological impact he had as the physical impact, if you know what I mean.
So let's ask some questions of you ahead of the double. Che Adams to Mikel Antonio, would that be worth a -4 in your opinion?
Yeah, I've gone cold on Che Adams, particularly. I don't think he's been looking good at all. But you have to look at Moyes' pre-match comments where he said that Antonio is that important that they're just not going to rush him back. So if you're happy to take one start and one 30-minute off Antonio, then that's what you should expect to get out of him.
So you don't think he would start both games then?
I think it's a risk. He's being nursed back into the team, I think, with cotton wool wrapped up
My take on it would be, you've got Stockport in the Cup. I think it's Monday night. So a nice kind of week off now, basically. My take would be that he'll start at Stockport, most likely, and he'll play 45 minutes to an hour, irrespective of what's happening in the game, just to boost him up a little bit more. And I think if he comes through that okay, he will probably start against Burnley in the first game of the double game week. And again, you're probably not looking at 90 minutes. And then I would expect him, as long as he's okay, start again against West Brom. Then it's FA Cup fourth round, have a sit down for another 10 days or so. So my anticipation at the moment is he would start both games if it goes well between now and then. The one that's going to be bothering a lot of people, sir, is Fabian Balbuena, who a lot of people on 16 Wildcard certainly went for, and he hasn't played since, basically. Well, he hasn't played since the Brighton game.
How funny, because...
it's not funny for people who own it, mate.
No, but when Dawson went down, like he'd been shot and stabbed.
Oh, he's back in.
Everyone's thinking he's coming on, and he'll probably get, if we keep a clean sheet, he's going to play enough minutes to keep a clean sheet.
That's right.
As well. So fuck it, it's all right. Concerned now all of a sudden, and you have to say Dawson's played well in both games.
Dawson stays in, doesn't he? Now?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
I mean, you've made it clear that Ogbonna is the first choice of, let's say, the four centre-halves, if we include Issa Diop as well.
Yeah.
So that Dawson's come in, you've kept 2 clean sheets. Why is he going to change that? That would be my thinking now.
Yeah.
So you might get a clue from the Stockport game, maybe. I think, to be honest, you're hoping for an injury now for Balbuena to get back in. Whereas I think before the Everton game, you and I thought it was probably rest because of the quick turnaround of Brighton Southampton. But then Dawson got man of the match at Southampton. He's played again, another clean sheet, and you defended really well.
I was so impressed with the work rate.
And the 2 opponents in 19, Burnley and West Brom. So physical element in terms of set pieces is going to be important to defend against. And what's Dawson's greatest strength? It's in the air. Mm-hmm. I think Dawson probably plays. His ownership when I last looked was 0.0%. He was owned by about 2,000 bots, I think. So that's your game week 19 hero.
Yeah, quite possibly.
Would you make that move for a -4, Balbuena to Dawson?
Do you know, one of the things I really hate doing, it's probably unhelpful to listeners, is second guessing lineups and team lineups, because if you ask me, like you asked me a week ago, does Balbuena come in? Well, what evidence do I have? The fact that Balbuena's pretty much started every single game. Dawson's been signed and been on the bench. He's come in for 1 game in a busy fixture run, when we're doing quite a bit of rotation in amongst the squad. I've got no evidence to say Dawson stays. Now we kind of sort of do have 2 games back to back where he's played well. If the dominance that Dawson and Ogbonna have shown with the 4 at the back means that we can have the extra attacker in Ben Rama, then I think Dawson stays in. Yeah.
Okay. That'll sum it up on West Ham, I think. Just on Everton, bad performance. It looked like they were the team that had played 3 times in 6 days rather than yourselves. You finished stronger.
Do you know, the only player that actually I looked at and thought you have the energy was Richarlison. And obviously he's had a break as well, hasn't he? So, but he actually did interest me in terms of, he looked lively and hungry. But DCL was very much out of the game.
At the moment, I don't see me having any Everton players in the game week 18 free hit. The 2 things I'd say to summarise is Calvert-Lewin is still going to be massively owned, and if he returns, it will hurt on the game week. This was his first time this season that he's blanked in consecutive games. He is still a decent asset, believe me. Just a note on Michael Keane, because he was obviously left out for Everton defensively. They got to a situation last season before the restart period where Ancelotti spoke a lot about rotating centre halves, and quite often he would make selections based on opponent. I think this was just a case of Michael Keane rest, and it might be that in the next game, it's Yerry Mina or Mason Holgate. I don't think this was an indication that Holgate and Mina are first choice. I think that will change again. Therefore, we'd all probably be guessing for the Wolves games that I would avoid those 3 players.
Yep. And there we go. An away win at the team that was second in the league. Let's talk about Manchester United to Aston Villa 1, because Manchester United have now taken the mantle of second in the league. Should they win their next game, will be top of the league.
Can we just repeat that there's 7 points between 10th and 1st?
It's mad, isn't it?
I've never, not at this stage of the season, never known anything like it.
When we won, we were 10th, but we were tied on points with everyone up to 5th or something ridiculous like that.
Crazy.
Incredible. Manchester United.
This was a really good game. A really, really good game. And to be honest, most Villa games I watch are really good games at the moment. I saw even Mourinho saying that Villa was his favourite team to watch so far this season. After I'd said in one of my streams that if I had to give manager of the season so far, I'd probably give it to Dean Smith, and player of the season to Jack Grealish. They're really good to watch. They don't have any inferiority when they play these games. So it'd be interesting, like when they play City, for example, next Wednesday. And obviously, that's the week after now, isn't it? And obviously Tottenham next Wednesday. They'll swing. They swing punches in different ways to Leeds just throw everything. They're a good side. They've got good players. No surprise, I think, that Mings came back in with Konsa, although Horse had done quite well in the games with Konsa's illness and then Mings' suspension. They're definitely the first choice centre-halves. Matty Cash at right back is developing into a very, very good footballer, and he's probably too expensive in FPL. But I tell you what, if you want a Villa defensive player on your free hit, I'd go with him. I'd pay the extra, because you're just judging it on 1 week punts. Then the value, if the player fits into the system, the price doesn't matter. Can I afford him? Yes or no? Don't get stuck into it. I think he's a good option, Matty Cash, for the free hit potentially.
I mean, do you think Villa will come back in a few weeks and actually? I mean, they're doing so well, and with the games in hand and where they're sitting in the table, could easily get themselves up to top 4. And then you look at it and you think they could have got something out of this game, especially in the second half, easily. They could have nicked the Chelsea game.
Yeah.
They should have beaten us when they dropped
100%
points. And in amongst that, I mean, the Burnley game, they probably should have won as well. It's almost as if they'd got all the points that their performances kind of deserve, they'd be sitting up there with the top 2 or 3, mate. And
they've been without Ross Barkley for all of this kind of December period as well, basically, obviously since they lost to Brighton. And you think back and you think, God, if they'd have won that day, what would their position be in the league? You'd be saying, well, they really can push for top 4. And actually, the way this season's going, I don't think you could rule them out at the moment, because 1 to 11, they're strong, honestly. Start considering Villa as a very good side.
Yep.
On United, they can obviously smell the title now, which it just feels crazy, because, I mean, probably in home games this season, they've played well against Leeds, really. I mean, they played okay against Villa. It was a good game that Villa, I felt, probably just about deserved something out of the game. Particularly, it's not a penalty. It's not a dive either, by the way. Pogba catches the back of David Luiz's calf, and then Pogba trips himself up.
Yeah.
I don't know how that still gets given, but anyway, moving on. They're not shy of penalties, United. And I'm a Bruno Fernandes owner, so I'm not particularly bitter about it. But obviously, look, they only need a point at Burnley to go top of the league. It's unbelievable. And the thing is now, one or two things will happen. It'll either sharpen minds, where quite often I think we've watched United, even in some of these away games where they've gone behind in nearly every game, started slowly. It'll switch minds on and think, oh my God, we've got an opportunity. Or the pressure might get to a few, particularly in defensive areas. And the way this season's gone, I don't think we can guess which way that will go at the moment. Bruno Fernandes is going to be mass captain in game week 18. I would expect the effective ownership to be over 100%. And that's why I discussed the idea for free hits yesterday, that if you don't intend to captain him, you should actually possibly consider going without. He's going to hurt you either way.
Yeah.
Cavani, I think, might play at Burnley, as I said yesterday, because that's when the suspension ends. We'll get, obviously, clues, particularly from the FA Cup game at the weekend. Obviously, remember, they play Man City in the League Cup semi-final tomorrow night. If Martial and Rashford were to get serious minutes in both of those two games, I would be concerned about having either of them on the free hit, personally. I don't think we can judge that till the weekend's gone.
No. And your Saturday must have kicked off wonderfully with a good 3-0 win for Spurs at Leeds. A game that you were worried about. We're calling 3-2s, etc., etc. Defensive solidity held out in the end and took the 3-0 win. Kane and Son, can we just congratulate them because they're now joint top, right, of the top
It's unbelievable.
13 combinations, let's say, for goal and assist so far, with half a season left to go. More than half a season left to go.
I think it's 22 games to go, I think Tottenham have got. I mean, that's staggering. They have set up a goal for each other 13 times in 16 games. It's staggering.
Yeah.
And that, as you say, I think it's Sutton and Shearer's record from 94-95, which was in a 42-game season as well.
Yeah. And add in that, and some of those 16 games, you've been pretty crap as well.
A lot of them 16 games, by the way, mate.
So, yeah, I mean, as a Sun owner, I still wish I did have Kane, but it made sense on the wildcard to get rid of one of them.
The game started badly for Tottenham because Leeds come and swung punches, as we know that they can do. And watching the first 10, 15 minutes, there's no way you can keep this lot out because they just come and play, as we've said before, play the same way, whether it's 0-0, 3-0, they don't particularly care. But what I liked about Tottenham was, and I've spoken about this before, was Mourinho saying he keeps telling them to press and they don't. Well, we did. There was bravery in this game in terms of actually sitting off. And to be honest, it's what Tottenham do a lot, wait for mistakes. But the pressing on the mistakes was good, as shown by the first goal in terms of it's bad from Meslier. But then Winks picks it up, bang, we're off. We're 4-on-4 instantly in a moment. And you have to be brave off the ball to be able to get into that position in the first place. So that I liked. Once the goal went in, Tottenham then, for a change, decided that they were going to carry on playing. The second goal is brilliant. I can't understate how good the finish is from Son because it's in front of the front post. It's literally the only way he can score. It's also with him, I knew it wasn't offside. You know me, I'm always, is that on, is that off? I knew it's on because his timing of the runs is just so good anyway.
Yeah.
And I loved the way we played in the first 15, 20 minutes of the second half. Because what I expected at half time was, right, it's 2-0 up. And I think back to Mourinho's comments about the Arsenal game and being like, well, why we attack? It's 2-0. Just let them do their thing. We make sure they don't score. We win the game. But I loved that we still played with energy in the start of the second half. And that's something that's been missing in games recently, which I enjoyed. We obviously got the third. That helps. But then a fourth could have come as well. No major damages for Leeds. I don't want to say naivety, but they lost the game. 3-0 was harsh. We deserved to win the game. Lost the game because of individual mistakes at certain times in the game in terms of giving the ball away. But then it's part of how they play, right? That they'll take risks. What they didn't do in this game was they didn't hurt us. Other than, like I said, the first 10, 15 minutes, I didn't actually think that Leeds were going to score in the game. And I didn't imagine that I'd be feeling like that. I watched the game very calm at the end. I think it's one of them you think, well, if Leeds get one here, could it be like the West Ham game and you start fearing? But unlike that day where I was worried, I wasn't worried watching this. I thought if they score, it will be a consolation and that's it. And Lloris wasn't really overly worked. It's difficult to actually remember him making a good save in the game.
By the same token, in terms of double game week, I mean, Leeds have got 2 home games.
Oh, yeah.
They could just as easily win them 4-0 as lose them 4-0. So with the Leeds assets that so many of us have, no one's suddenly thinking, let's ditch them. They're still decent.
Leeds Southampton should be a great game, which is the second game of the double, because that's contrasting styles within similar philosophies. Actually, it's quite interesting. So really looking forward to that one. Just a note though, which I picked up watching the Burnley game that Leeds had. The pitch at Ellen Road is not in a good state. Now, I did have a check to see if there's any kind of major disparity between goals at Ellen Road for Leeds and away games. And there's not a huge amount in it, right? I mean, they beat Newcastle 5-2, for example. They beat Fulham 4-3. So games at Ellen Road can definitely have goals. All I'd say is that actually, in an odd way, in terms of the way that Leeds play, they might be better suited at the moment to playing away from home rather than at home, because that pitch looked like that day it was cutting up really bad. Now, he's had a couple of weeks to settle down. It might be a bit better. And Brighton and Southampton both want to play football, so it's not necessarily conducive for them either. but it might mean that the two games have less goals and less entertainment than we might anticipate. But you're quite right. Leeds could beat Brighton 4-0. They could lose 3 or 4-0. Just never really know with them. Swing with them. Get the attacking players, particularly. If you've got Dallas, Meslier, it's obviously all great for the double. If you want to go for treble, it's fine. No issue with it. Dallas is still good value. Struijk is obviously dirt cheap. But it's every game recently, it's been like Llorente's fit and he's not back in the team yet. I wouldn't take that gamble. Alioski, it looks like you'll get away with for the double as it stands.
We were both going to skip Crystal Palace 2, Sheffield United 0, have a nice little afternoon nap on New Year's Day after day, whatever we want to call it.
I watched it. I did fall asleep the second half. I'm not going to fucking lie. I really did.
Question number 1. Do you think Sheffield United will score more points this season than Derby County did?
Yes.
You do,
I think they'll probably beat Newcastle in game week 18. I spoke about this yesterday. If someone's going to end a run from it, it'll probably be Newcastle, honestly. There are rumours, strong rumours that have gone around last night that Chris Wilder has possibly offered his resignation, which, if that's true, is sad. There's no other words for that than sad. There's a lot of people going, he has to go. You do look at it, 2 points from 17 or whatever it is. Like, nobody realistically can survive that. And he himself has said, I'll walk away if I'm not wanted or whatever. And I think the most Blades fans would still want him in, but there is a little bit of a split. And unbelievably, you look at kind of West Brom, Fulham, Brighton, and you think, well, they're not miles away. What if they did have a bounce or something? Could they? My opinion would be at the moment that the players in that team are just not good enough to get themselves out of it. And if you wanted Sheffield United players because you're on a free hit in 18, it's a gamble in itself. But it might appeal because they're playing Newcastle. On Palace, early goal helped.
Yeah.
Wonderful goal from Eze, but Ethan Ampadu's tackle is so bad. Bring the player down or do something. When I was watching it live, I was like, Eze's going to turn him inside out. And he didn't have to do a lot. I love the way he glided past him. I think there's a possibility that against Arsenal in 18 that Eze might play up front with Zaha. Benteke and Schlupp both went off injured during the game. And I think the natural thinking is right. Eze plays left. Jordan Ayew plays up front. But I think reflecting on the fact that Mitchell was played the 2 games and obviously Eze was left out of the starting lineup as well, means that there's a concern about Eze defensively following the Liverpool and Villa games for Palace. And he's kind of, where we spoke for weeks and went, this left side is really threatening. He's kind of ripped it up. Mitchell is a much safer player defensively than Van Aanholt in terms of Van Aanholt just goes, doesn't think twice about it. I don't think he wants Mitchell getting doubled up like 2-on-1s, for example, which we say a Bellerin and a Saka, if that's what Arsenal play on the right-hand side in that game, could happen. So I think what he might do is play a more defensive player in that zone and possibly play Eze off Zaha, which could be an interesting prospect. But I don't think we're looking at Palace players for those who are on the free here. I don't think you would. I don't think think Zaha you would. I don't think you'd probably be more likely to have a Sheffield United player than a Palace player. Mitchell is 3.9. The caution on that is obviously it's the last game of the game week. But if he's third on your bench, and what are you expecting off him anyway?
Thing, right? He's a bench.
Yeah, expecting nothing. Fodder, so. You're expecting 0 point, 1 point, 2 point. Does it really matter? I just would leave him third on the bench, just in case.
Yeah. So this on Saturday, James, I put a cheeky little bet on Spurs Leeds over 2 goals, Palace Sheffield United under 3 goals, Arsenal West Brom over 2 goals.
Wolves
Brighton, under 4.5 goals is what I put.
Your odds must have been so shit on this.
Yeah, it was fine. I was like doubling my money or something. But under 5 goals on Brighton Wolves. And by half time, I'd shit myself, let's be honest. I was just looking at it thinking, what?
I mean, why did you set your bar that high? I'd have been going under 3 goals quite comfortably.
Well, I just wanted to say, I wanted a safe bet. I'm just looking at safe bets to just get a tidy little small return on my investment. I'm not a very good gambler at football. I'm trying to
No, you're
learn. It's like
definitely
playing
not.
poker. I want to learn. I follow a few tipsters and stuff that they bet on stuff that I would never bet on, like corners and shots and random weird stuff like that. Like in the Spurs game, for example, I had 5-1 on Bamford and Kane to have 2 or more shots on target. Came in lovely jubbly because these guys are going to be firing off shots. 5-1, I thought was decent odds on that. But yeah, this game I thought there was going to be less than 5 goals. There was 6, and it was a madness.
Suj, anytime you like, you can message the guy that you do podcasts with and ask the advice of someone who worked in the bookies for 11 years, if you like.
Yeah, sure, I will.
Maybe you should do that.
I think we should do a little course on that. We don't gamble aware, 18 plus, responsible, something.
Gamble responsibly, drink responsibly, and social distance definitely responsible.
Yeah. Stay at home.
Right,
Brighton
the game.
3, Wolves 3.
So at half time, I was thinking Potter's dead. Basically, like this is going to turn really nasty. And by the end, obviously, Brighton fans are left with quite a positive feeling because this side came back into the game. Absolutely daft from João Moutinho to give Brighton a penalty right at the start of the second half. Nearly as daft as Dan Burns' performance, own goal, penalty given away, and also in the second half contrived to head what looked a good opportunity backwards in the second half.
Why not add the yellow card in for fun as well?
Was there a yellow card as well?
There was.
That's a blinding FPL performance. That. What do you get? -1, -2?
Let's have a cheeky look here.
Anyway.
-2, James.
Brighton are, I said this after the defeat to Arsenal, that they're kind of sleepwalking into a relegation battle, and this result doesn't change that. It gives a little bit of positivity, and I go to Newport in the FA Cup, which is dirty. Leicester fans, Tottenham fans, Newcastle fans, and a few others can definitely tell you that that's a dangerous cup side for Brighton. And then they've got City away and Leeds away, Fulham at home, then Tottenham and Liverpool. They've got a tough run as well. So FPL, you're just not looking at assets. The goalkeeper, I understand Matt Ryan's been told he can leave if he can find a club. Sanchez is no better, in my opinion. Don't rate him on what I've seen so far at all. They'd be better off going back to what they know, which is the back three of White, Dunk, Webster. Obviously missing Tariq Lamptey. It feels like they've got no energy without him. Get Lamptey and March in the wing-back positions and then work from there. And then if you want to rotate in the forward positions, fine. But get that base of the team that at times this season we've really liked, get that back together would be the first thing. Wolves aren't right. They're not right. I said this before the Tottenham game. I'll say it again now. Defensively, they're making mistakes which are just not like Wolves. This, if I put you down, and admittedly Wolves were playing in their Portugal kit, if I sat you down and went, watch the game at Man United and watch the game at Brighton side by side, you could not believe that is the same team. Other than watching Adama Traore run with the ball. You just wouldn't know that that's the same team. And they changed system again, right? So the back five at United looked really, really solid. They've gone back to a back four, and suddenly they're conceding chances all over the place. The fullbacks need to play in the back five because it's not good enough. Nori and Semedo's not better than Doherty, mate. I'm not having it. So they need protection. You should go back to the back five, in my opinion. I understand that Nuno Santo wants to get the creativity into the team, and that probably means an extra attacking player. And of course, the argument is, it goes the other way, and you look at them at half time, you think, fucking hell, Wolves, 3 goals in the first half. How many times we criticise them about first half?
Yeah, first half performances.
And yet,
scoring.
What's happened here? It's gone the other way. It's gone the other way. I think without Jimenez at the moment, should go back to what they know. I spoke about this idea of having the front three of Podence, Neto and Traore, and they don't have stuck positions. They just go and float. Traore goes up front for 10 minutes, then he goes on the left. Just however the game plan works out. Have the 2 sitting midfielders, which Moutinho and Neves need to sit because they haven't got the legs. They're missing Dendoncker at the moment. And I think they'd be better for it. Amongst that 10 teams within 7 points of Liverpool, Wolves aren't one of them.
No.
And at the moment, I'm not convinced that they'll even break into that top 10, to be honest.
What about for the free hit or what have you? Wolves are playing Everton. Tempted with maybe just one of the cheaper players like Neto, 6 million at the moment.
Saiss is a good choice in spite of what I've just said defensively. I mean,
5.1.
he scored in the last 2 games as well. they'll be better off if they have Bolly back. That's the only concern of that. Attacking wise, it would be Neto for me at 6 million. He's a decent player. Every time I watch him, I think you're a good player. And I spoke about this on one of the Sky pods we did before the winter period and said, he's probably the fittest player in that team at the moment. I'll have a bet that he'll play all the games over this period. And he has. I think I think he feels the ownership of main man responsibility at the moment. So I think Neto would be the one to punt on the free hit. Admit there missed Podence as well. And I don't know if he'll be back for the Everton game or not. It's one to keep an eye on.
Let's talk about West Brom 0, Arsenal 4, because Arsenal are certainly a team that people will want to pile into on the free hit based on what's been happening in the last couple of games. It's amazing how the mood can change so quickly when results start going your way. But
they're only 10 points behind Liverpool.
Yeah, I mean, look, let me just have a look. They are only...
They're 10 points behind Liverpool. They're 3 points behind Chelsea. What?
Exactly. So, and you'd say that, I mean, Chelsea having a bad season, but Arsenal are on the way back up. Plenty of potential interesting assets there, especially because Arteta's playing the kids now. So the likes of Saka, if you really want to bet.
And they're better for it. We've spoken about it.
Yeah,
they're better for
it. Tierney will get a lot of attention because of his goal and assist in the last game. 5.4 is still relatively cheap. Laka still keeps banging them in. If you've got a lot of money burning a hole in your pocket, Aubameyang is a potential consideration as well.
Aubameyang. Here's the concern on Aubameyang. Anybody who's thinking of buying Aubameyang on a free hit, what I'd urge you to do is just go and watch the goals again. Just go and watch the goals again. Go and watch the first goal. The second goal was a brilliant goal. Genuinely, what a brilliant goal that they scored. And Smith Rowe is so crucial in that. And obviously Saka's a big part of it as well. Watch them 2 goals. Where is he? Where's Aubameyang? He's not even in shot for either goal. Tierney's got the ball on the left-hand side and he beats a man on the inside. And Arsenal got 3-4 players in the box potentially waiting for a cross. I don't even know where he is.
Yeah.
Where is he? That's his side of the pitch as well. Where is he? The 4th goal, he tries to break into the box late and he obviously plays the ball to Tierney out wide. The 3rd goal, he ends up on the back post and it doesn't come anywhere near him. But it's just little things like that. Lacazette's ended up with 2 goals here, basically for being in the right place at the right time.
It's what strikers need to do, mind.
Aubameyang is just not getting in the positions at the moment. I don't know if it's a confidence thing, a mentality thing. I wouldn't be surprised if he's playing through injury a little bit. Because obviously he missed the game, didn't he? And then he was only sub against Chelsea. But then you'd think after the Chelsea result, if he was still injured, do they need to rush him back? He just doesn't look right. He would be nothing more at the moment than what? 11.3, is he? An 11.3 million free hit punt is what he would be right now. So I think for Arsenal, you'd be looking at the defense, the cheaper guys. So Smith Rowe, Saka, fine. Lacazette, you'd pick Lacazette over Aubameyang at the moment. Scored 4 in the last 3. Defensively, Tierney, great if you can afford it. If not, I think Rob Holding will be safe for the Palace game at least. I think what you're looking at there is Holding versus David Luiz for a position and Mari versus Gabriel. And it just falls down to Mari and Gabriel being left-sided centre-halves. David Luiz can play either. Rob Holding definitely right-sided centre-half. So I think Holding should be fine. Leno's obviously an option as well. So there's quite a few for the free hitters to pick from. And they're all, even Lacazette to a certain extent, 8.2. I think I'll have 3 of them on the free hit. You would expect them to beat Palace now, wouldn't you? And Newcastle. And then what? Then what is their position afterwards?
Well, we can definitely keep an eye on it. What are your thoughts on West Brom? Down? Done? Dusted?
Very close.
Minus 28 goal difference. 6 points off Brighton, who are currently sitting in 17th. And even more points off Burnley, who are obviously a place above. 1 win all season. It's almost as bad as no wins. And it kind of makes
28 is roughly what you'd expect for a side finishing 18th getting relegated. They're already on that. I mean, and that's considering as well that if you may want to class Arsenal as one of the big teams at the moment, but if you remove them, as they should have been removed most of this season, they could still get in there. But the other members of the big 6 haven't done anything against them.
No. Who are the three teams above West Brom? Fulham, Brighton and Burnley. add their combined goal difference and you get to minus 28, mate. Bad.
So you're starting on an inferior point as well. So what are they?
6 points off safety at the moment.
6 points off safety. You might as well call it 7. That's bad. Wolves is their next league game, and it's their big game. It's their derby, right? So look, they'll go to Wolves. They'll give it everything. There's no doubt about that, and it'll be a tight game, I should imagine. Wolves don't really explode off of anybody in these situations. Actually, these are the sort of games which are stumbling blocks for Wolves. I wouldn't be surprised if they got something at Molineux. West Ham away, similar. They might frustrate you actually if they put a block up in front of you.
Then I'm sure Big Sam will want to come back and try and get a result. Yeah.
Then it's City. You can't see anything at the moment, can you? The fact it's at home is almost worse for them. And then Fulham, Sheffield United, and they'd have to pick up probably at least 4 points from those 2 games, you would say now. I can't see them finishing above 2 of the teams above that you said, and that includes Fulham at the moment. Just don't see it. If they went down tomorrow, there is no one that would be of interest to you as an asset, other than potentially Gallagher, who's obviously on loan from Chelsea, is a developing player. And Johnston would make a very good, particularly as he's English, would make a very good backup goalkeeper for any Premier League side. Other than that, you wouldn't be interested. Would you take Diangana back? Okay, he wouldn't get near your team at the moment. All that fuss in the summer, mate. He wouldn't get near it.
No,
Pereira
right,
as underwhelmed. You wouldn't take any of them.
So yeah,
if they stay up, it will be Sam's biggest achievement. I don't see how he can do it at the moment, personally.
Newcastle 1, Leicester 2 was the early game. Wasn't supposed to be, but was the first game on Sunday. And I think for people that own a number of assets from Leicester, particularly, let's say Vardy and James Justin as probably 2 of the highest owned, ended up being, in the end, a really frustrating watch because they could have hauled and didn't in the end. Like Vardy, for me, is quite a frustrating player to own because even when he hasn't returned, you're 60 minutes, 65 minutes, 70 minutes into a game, you always feel like with him, it's anytime, any place, or they could win a penalty. So you kind of get lulled into this false sense of, I'm just going to sit tight and relax, and he is going to get me something. And then obviously he crashed the shot off the bar, and he had other opportunities as well and ended up with just an assist. And Justin...
You're spot on, though. So Jamie Vardy absolutely could have hauled in this game. I actually really liked his performance because Newcastle, I don't know, for a little bit of excitement maybe on the performance against Liverpool, where there was definitely a change of ideology off the ball in that game where they wanted to try and press Liverpool quite high. That didn't quite happen in this game. But certainly in terms of defensive line and structure, they were a bit higher than what you would expect a Newcastle team in terms of trying to put up a low block. Vardy was on the edge of it all the time. There were 3 or 4 times in the game where he was marginally offside. And with him, he is always looking for the margins. And the timing of his runs is normally so exemplary. On a different day, he gets those runs right. He scores in the first half, then he assists in the second. The shot that hits the bar goes in, and suddenly what sort of return are you looking at? You're looking at a 16-pointer or something. So really, really close. The games in the double for Vardy are not bad. The fact that Southampton, Chelsea, it's not bad for him. Because they'll spend long periods of both games potentially without the ball. And Maddison to Vardy, it's a little bit like Kane to Son. It's like, where can I find him? Can I find him? It's the first thing he's thinking every time. And so he'll find space okay in those games. You wouldn't expect him to blank twice, I don't think. Yeah. And they've got decent fixtures afterwards with Everton, Leeds, Fulham. All look all right for Jamie Vardy afterwards. So Kane to Vardy I think, is a highly likely move for me for the double. And I'd even look at it and go, okay, it might not even work for me in the double in 19 with Kane playing Sheffield United. But I'd then prefer it afterwards as well, with Kane walking into Liverpool, for example, and a few Chelsea a couple of weeks after for Kane as well. So I'd probably look at it beyond 19 and think, yeah, Vardy's the better option for me. Not that I rule out buying Aguero if I see some minutes from him between now and in between.
It's interesting. You mentioned something about Dominic Calvert-Lewin earlier. You said it was the first time this season that he's blanked twice in a row. Jamie Vardy hasn't blanked twice in a row all season, other than the one game that he missed where he didn't play against Aston Villa.
But it's just returned, so that's no good. But yeah, you wouldn't expect Vardy if double game week 19 ends and Jamie Vardy's on 4 points, I think you'd be surprised.
Massively. Yeah.
I think you would expect him to get you, I think, at least sort of a 9-pointer over the 2 games, at least an assist or something. I think so.
Minimum, yeah.
James Justin, apparently, you know me, I don't look at BPS during games, but I saw the official accounts tweet. He was on for top bonus, weren't he? He got booked, dumb tackle, and then they scored for the free kick. He went from 9 points to 1 point in under a minute, which takes some doing, and that would have been a big difference to a lot of people's teams this week. So I think I'm right in saying he's the most owned defender in FPL at the moment.
Is he?
I think so, James Justin. I might have that wrong. If not, he's very, very close. And I got him in on the wild card a couple of weeks ago, and he's fine. I'm quite happy to have him during the double. I don't anticipate Pereira coming in for any of them 2 fixtures, Southampton, Chelsea. That's too big an ask considering how long he's been out. So he should be fine. It might be a problem for him after the double. I mean, we can reassess then.
James Justin is, you're right, the highest owned defender at 24.1%. The last time when Almiron scored, and then obviously all this COVID shit happened.
What are we saying? We need him to score to get rid of COVID.
We're saying Andy Carroll scores his first goal for Newcastle in 10 years, and then Boris sticks us in a lockdown as well. Every time a Newcastle player scores after some kind of hoodoo or some stupidity, we end up in lockdown, mate. So it's Andy Carroll's fault, basically.
It could be worse. At least Aaron Ramsey's left the Premier League, or we'd all be in trouble.
True.
This is no major issue for Newcastle. I think Darlow, Clark, Fernandes, Wilson, all reasonable options for free hitters. I think in 18, those would be the 4. In terms of having an Almiron or a Richie or something, that's not for me. I don't think. Richie maybe, but I don't think you'd even feel certain that he's even start, right? Jamal Lewis has been left out for the last couple of games. That's probably one that's a concern for a few owners going into 18, is that Lewis has been left out of the team. And I saw actually this morning had been strongly linked with a move for Brandon Williams from Manchester United. Lewis can cover at right back as well, it's worth saying. And he's probably a better option than DeAndre Yedlin if Bruce decides he wants to stay with Richie at the moment. I wouldn't be surprised if Lewis comes in at right back. He's a possibility. It's a nervous one for people who hold. You wouldn't go for him on a free hit, I don't think, even though he's 4.3. Just too much uncertainty at the moment. Newcastle are going to be safe because of the shit below them.
There's too many other teams that are rubbish. That's exactly it.
Yeah. Where are they in the league? From 14th upwards.
15th, 14th, something like that.
From 14th upwards, won't get relegated. And I think they might be just 15th. Below that. They're 15th. Yeah. Are they on 19 points?
A solid 7 points clear of Fulham, who only have 1 game in hand.
They'll probably be okay. And it will help that they've got someone like Wilson who obviously will score goals. And they will have defensive days where they do okay, like they did against Liverpool. But in terms of FPL assets beyond the free hit, you ain't looking at the moment. Nope. Just one thing I do want to say on Johnny Evans, because I said about a month ago that I was concerned that they were sticking with the back 5 because of protection for Johnny Evans. And to be fair, that's proven not to be the case because he's obviously playing in a back 4 at the moment with Fofana. What I will say though is, for me, every single time they're better in a back 4, and they're a threat. They're if you want to say people like Villa and Tottenham are in a title race at the moment, Leicester City definitely are.
Another club that definitely are is Manchester City, who did a number on Chelsea here quite comfortably. Moved the ball, attacking threat, played football, and finally Phil Foden returned for you, mate.
Well, this is why I think Phil Foden's only Tierney got more FPL points than Foden this week. I think he got a 14-pointer. That's part why you leave him in, because you know what the capability of the player was. Just to clarify, I don't own Phil Foden at the moment. I did buy John Stones, which looked like another great buy. How have they managed to concede? We had this before with City, and you always take this risk with them, but they just switch off for a moment and they concede a goal. And for them, it doesn't matter because the game's won. To FPL managers, it obviously does matter. They're so sloppy like that. But defensively, they've been very, very good. And what I'd say is actually conceding that goal will probably put a lot of people off buying the City defensive assets. And that run of fixtures coming up is brilliant, particularly from a defensive perspective. Brighton, Palace, Villa, West Brom, Sheffield United, Burnley. A few of them games will end like 1-0, 2-0, be rubbish, and you
Yeah.
miss the attacking returns. Defensively, there should be stuff in there, I would say.
Agreed. Cancelo is the one that's stuck through.
Yeah, and he's playing so well. He's playing so well. It was him that created the chance for De Bruyne, which that chance effectively changed the game. A comeback to Chelsea, but essentially Chelsea were the better side in the first 15 minutes. Then that chance happened, and for half hour, Johnny Pringle's coming on COTC Friday, so we'll speak about it in more detail in terms of their assets for free hitters and beyond and stuff. But it was the most, that half hour was the most I'd enjoyed City since they won the league. They were so good. And you reflect on it afterwards and go, why? What happened here? Because Rodri, who I've been heavily critical, looked good. Gundogan was fucking great, right? He was really good. Sorry to the person on my deadline stream who I laughed at when they said they wanted to buy him. But the question did start with, don't laugh, but. So I laughed. Yeah. He's going to be people's radar because of his price. I personally, with City, go to defensive guys or go to big hitters is what I'd feel at the moment. Foden and Bernardo Silva, two brilliant little footballers. And it complemented the fact, obviously, De Bruyne played in, I wouldn't say an alien position because he's been playing further and further forward anyway. But obviously to do it with nobody in front of him and have his back to goal quite a lot is unusual for him. He played great. He won't stay in that position. So when they play Brighton next week, you ain't going to see De Bruyne playing false nine for the rest of this season. I just don't see that. It was a tactical decision designed for Chelsea on that particular game, like it was designed when he played De Bruyne and Bernardo Silva as false nines away to Real Madrid in the Champions League last year. He will occasionally come up with these things in big games. Against weaker opposition, expect to see De Bruyne back at 10 and someone else ahead of him in the team, I would suggest. But I hope that it's Bernardo and Foden somehow stay in that team. What they did differently was they've got stuck with this idea of a double pivot with Rodri plus Gundogan really deep or Fernandinho alongside him. And occasionally, like I think when they played Arsenal early in the season, Bernardo Silva played really deep in that game alongside Rodri. This was different. It was two in front of one. Mm-hmm. And Rodri being the one. And I think Rodri benefited for not being looking sideways, think, I need to look up and play forward. Gundogan was box to box. It was really good. And Bernardo was allowed to float in between kind of half positions and really, really good. Linked the play. I love him as a footballer. He's so good. And Foden, every time, how is he not in the team? How is he not in the team? He's a brilliant footballer. Now, it doesn't all work because then kind of what I've said in terms of a team and dropping De Bruyne back in, that means you're leaving Sterling out. You leave Sterling out, you've removed all the pace out of the team. So it can't all fit in. But I think certainly Bernardo and Foden should be worked into a more adventurous system. In these games coming up, they do not need to play a fucking double pivot. Just play Rodri or just play Fernandinho would be what I'd think. De Bruyne and Bernardo or Foden in front would be great. And then you can play Sterling plus another one wide. That's where I've said this so many times. I visualised the best of City. But what was so impressive about his performance was it was the way they played. It was just speed.
They moved the ball much quicker
exactly.
all of a sudden. And the thing with City in their prime is the fear factor. The times I've seen them come to our place and beat us 4-0, 5-0 and whatever, when they get the ball and they start attacking you, you shit yourself. And you haven't been recently because they've just been moving the ball slow enough that you can react. Here, every time they got the ball at the end of that first half, you're thinking they could score. And it was just that fear factor was suddenly back where I was like, okay, shit, these guys are on fire now. So what are your thoughts in terms of the free hit? If you had to pick three, De Bruyne being a given, let's say.
Yeah.
Two others, are you going to go Sterling plus a Diaz or Cancelo, or do you think double up at the back?
I think for Brighton, being that that's the opponents, I'd probably more want to go with a second attacking player. So I think if I can fit in De Bruyne and Sterling, that's the most likely. Again, look, they've got League Cup and FA Cup in between. So if Sterling played both of those two games, for example, I'd be quite concerned that he'd probably be in for a rest with Brighton. I'd feel similarly about Cancelo, who at the moment probably has to play both those two games, depending on where Cole Walker's having his parties and stuff, and Benjamin Mendy and what he's doing. So I think there's clues to be learned following the weekend games. But I would, right now, would probably be Cancelo, De Bruyne, Sterling would be my thinking. And if I have to re-maneuver that because I'm concerned about the rotation, I happily just go Stones or Diaz instead. And then you can obviously fill up with, I don't know, stick a Son or Kane in instead, which is probably not part of my plan at the moment.
And then thoughts on Chelsea. I mean,
well,
I really want them to be good so I can own some of their players, and they're just not. Like Havertz, Pulisic, Werner, all
no
less
interest.
than 10 minutes.
No interest in their FPL assets, none at all, which is remarkable when they've got a double game week on the horizon. To be honest, if Reece James is fit, he'd be the best asset. If you've got Ben Chilwell, great, crack on, no problem. At the moment, you could not take a gamble on a Pulisic or a Werner. I don't think really. It would just be punty. You can say, yeah, Fulham's the first game. I wouldn't see him beating Leicester at the moment, even though it's at Leicester. Wouldn't fancy it at the moment. What I would say is you've got a run of fixtures which each of them individually they're capable of winning. Fulham, Leicester, Wolves, Burnley, Tottenham, Sheffield United. That's the next 6. If they win all 6 games, be in the title race. To flip it from what right now feels terrible, you're going, how are they only 3 points above Arsenal? How has that happened? Put a run of form together, and this goes for anybody in that top 10 at the moment. You're at minimum going to be challenging for the top 4. And that's why I think at the moment, on reflection following that pod we did yesterday, that he probably won't get sacked at the moment, Frank Lampard. But there is definitely a turn of feeling amongst the supporters and obviously within the media as well. The performances through December and obviously the weekend, not good enough. Like they didn't really do anything to try and get back in the game on Sunday. It was more okay. They were more worried that they were going to get beaten 5 or 6 than really trying to get back in the game. So it can go one of 2 ways. I do think it's probably one more bad defeat away from getting the boot. And actually, ironically, I wonder if it wasn't Frank Lampard, if this would be questioning more if it was, I don't know, say, yeah, to be honest, if it was someone like Ancelotti in charge now, would you be thinking, or is he actually now getting a bit of grace because he's Frank Lampard? I don't know. It's kind of flip-flopped a little bit. They'll still be in a race for top 4. Absolutely convinced of that. Got too many good players. I felt like, other than Reece James, and because Havertz is so far off form at the moment, this was his best team. And that's probably a little bit concerning because I think this is the way he's always wanted to go. Werner with Pulisic and Ziyech either side, or Havertz either side. And it blew up. They weren't better for not having a Giroud in the team. Kante, I saw him trying to swipe people during this game. And he's one of the best ball winners this league's ever seen. And he was struggling in the game. I don't know if there's a fitness issue there or something, but he just struggled in midfield. Mount, Kovacic, bad games. Not good. Mendy in goal, he's far better than Kepa, but I'm not convinced he's a great goalkeeper, by the way. Not great defensively. They're not in a good place, but they're not in an awful place. He's very easily recoverable, is what I'd say. From an FPL perspective, no interest.
And let's wrap up the games, James, with last night's win for Southampton at Liverpool. If you can take over while I just shed a tear a little bit here, because I'm so proud of my boys.
It was great, wasn't it? It was.
Yeah.
To be honest,
it's what you want to see.
It shocked me at the time because I was trying to think in my head, have I ever seen a manager cry after a Premier League game unless they won the title or stayed up from relegation on the final day or something like that? Just a Premier League game in January, and that's why I was a bit like, oh, I don't know if that's a bit over the top, but
they were crap against Fulham.
It was beautiful.
They come off the back of 2, I don't want to say crap, but 2 not good, decent performances. So then to have the home game against Liverpool, to go ahead early, whether Ings meant it or not or what, let's just assume for benefit of the doubt. He wanted to score and he took a shot. I don't think he maybe expected it to come off.
I think he's just putting it into an area and he knows this might go in, or if it doesn't, I think it was Stevens on the back post would have scored.
But it looked pretty good as a finish, let's be honest.
Yeah, look, I don't think he's specifically aiming for that part of the goal. I think he's going, this could go in, or I'm going to set someone else up. Let's just get it done quickly. And that's what's great about it, because he makes contact with the ball at such a high level. His foot's completely straight. So he kicks the ball at the highest possible point. That's what makes it a remarkable finish. Southampton deserve to win. It's the best defensive display I think probably anyone's ever put up against the Jurgen Klopp Liverpool team. I rate it that highly. And I think that's why Hassan Hüttl was so emotional at the end of the game, because he was, and a few people said since he's had COVID, family members have got COVID and stuff. So you never know if there's out outside stuff, but
Of
no
course.
McCarthy, no Vestergaard, no Adams. The team drops you like, where is Oriol Romeo? They're in trouble here. And that was my reaction that I tweeted at the time. That's we said about the spine being taken out of Vestergaard and Romeo against Fulham. They've taken out the goalkeeper, one of the forwards as well. And yet they've still managed to put up a display like that. They were the better side in the first half. They could have gone on 2-0 up at half-time, and it was probably about right. The thing is, in the second half, you can say, Liverpool pretty on the ball, territorial and all that. Tell me a good shot they had on goal. It never happened. And that's why that second half performance is so good, because we say all the time, Liverpool will get you no matter what, whether it's intricate play, balls coming in from wide areas, a bit of magic from a Salah or Mane. None of this happened. Southampton dealt with it, and they dealt with it all quite well. I'm watching the game with 15 minutes to go, and I'm thinking, they're not going to score. They don't look like they're going to score.
Nicked a penalty maybe with Walker Peters and Mane.
It's not a penalty.
You don't think he bundled him over a little bit?
No, pulls
shoulder to shoulder.
No.
And just
stop giving soft penalties. We don't want penalties in every game anyway.
I don't disagree with you that we should stop giving soft penalties, but you've seen less contact given. There was more contact in that than Pogba, for example.
The Pogba one, unfortunately, was never going to get overturned because there was contact of some sort, and arms on each other was the other thing. There was not a penalty. To be honest, it's the same thing. If the referee had given a penalty, probably wouldn't have got overturned, probably would have stood, because there was a bundling of legs. But Walker Peters plants his foot as Mane tries to go past him. If he sticks his leg out further, Mane goes over it. But then there's kind of a hanging of a leg, and it's not a penalty. It's complicated. It's not a penalty. Liverpool, bad from a creativity issue. I know there was a lot made of, obviously, Henderson playing centre-half. The fact that Henderson played centre-half is not why Liverpool lost the game. They lost the game because they couldn't get back into the game. Obviously, you don't want to give teams one-goal starts. I mean, Trent's had a brain fart on the goal, a complete brain fart. But it weren't good enough attacking-wise. I couldn't wait to watch Thiago. Thought it was ordinary. Wasn't great at all. Didn't move the ball quick enough, and I love him as a footballer. He'll get better. The front three wasn't great. You're looking at games, forced Shaqiri into the game. Looks now that I'm missing Jota. Just that's something different to change it. I think if he'd had him last night, there's every chance he would have taken any of the front three off the pitch when he brought Shaqiri on. But I thought he felt he couldn't because they were losing the game. I wouldn't worry about him too much. We've got 2 home games to come. But the draw into West Brom and Newcastle is almost worse than losing the game last night. You can't be drawing games like that when you're hoping to win a league title, because the other teams up there probably won't. So they're concerned. There's every chance now they go into that United game where you would assume they'll probably go into it second in the league. Then if you don't win that, then the pressure's really on. And you look at their fixtures and go, we've got to play Tottenham soon. We've got to play West Ham away. We've got to play City soon. It's not an easy run at all.
It's just Sunday the 17th, I think, 4:30 kickoff. Perfect game for getting down the pub with your mates and watching on the big screen. Oh, yeah. No, you can't.
we'll all be sitting in our living rooms with a cup of hot chocolate. Or for me, we've got Sheffield United just before that, so I might be in a bad mood. It could go very wrong for me. On FPL assets
as well
for Liverpool, I've got Salah, Trent, Robertson. And that's the way almost definitely it's going to stay for me in the double. And I will probably still captain Mohammed Salah with 2 home games. I feel like we've forgotten what Salah can do against bottom 6, 8 teams in games at Anfield, and Burnley fall into that category. So still very happy to captain Salah in the double. That's my intention at the moment. But part of my plan before these results was always to go Salah to De Bruyne in game week 20 anyway. Mm-hmm. Any sign that I'm unhappy with something from Liverpool over the weekend or something, I might shift it to a week earlier. And if I did, I'd captain De Bruyne. But I think it's absolutely reasonable to keep the Liverpool assets, honestly. And for me, it's a case of slowly coming off. Yeah. I would probably, Trent and Robertson have Tottenham away in 20. I would probably keep them both. And then in 21, I'd probably move one off. That would be my thinking at the moment. I agree. Right, if you're wildcarding right now, I don't think you're having any of it. Yeah. Like Trent, Robertson, make a case for Salah. If you think that's your captain in 19, you can make a case, leave him on the bench 18. But then you're restricting the power of what you could do in 18. So I think those on the wild card now probably go no Liverpool. For Saints, as I said earlier, McCarthy, Adams, don't worry about it too much. I think they'll both play in 19. I've got both. Shout out for Bednarek, by the way. 1 point off of Robertson to be in top FPL point scoring defender at the moment. 4.9 million. Decent. Got the double. We've got Arsenal and Villa at home afterwards. Newcastle coming up in 23. And he's a lock, right? If Vestergaard comes back in, he'll come back in for Stevens.
Correct. Yeah, no doubt. Interesting. There we go, James. A rundown of all 9 fixtures from this weekend for you. Obviously, we have FA Cup this week, but we do have midweek fixtures next week. So there'll be more games for us to review shortly. Won't be long. We do have a few Twitter questions that have been sent in from the community as well, James, which we've got a bit of time to get into, no doubt. Having said that, there are a number that we have covered off in the conversations about the games. But there are a few that are also interesting as well, talking about the free hit that a lot of people are going to be playing. It's heavily dominated by that, let's say. Adam, at Tommy Tonto, says, would you rather than sell Son and Kane or KDB as the enabler, just sell Salah? I mean, there's a couple of other questions as well where people have said, is it time to just ditch Salah to KDB rather than anything else?
So what's Salah on? 125 FPL points?
Loads.
Okay.
More than anyone else.
All right, cool. And we're not halfway yet.
No.
And what did he get last year? About 230?
Yeah.
I think Salah. So he's on course for over 250 or so?
He's going to top his total from last year.
For me, I'd more look at it and go, right, Mohammed Salah's had 3 blanks. And I realise there's people out there probably captained him in all 3 games. I captained him in the first 2. Or we all captained him against West Brom, I think, to be honest. All of us that owned anyway. And so you think, 3 blanks in a row. Ooh, I'd more look at it and go, is it going to be 4? Is it going to be 5? I think that's very unlikely. What's the chances I get beyond Man United and Burnley and Mohammed Salah's blanked again? I'd say unlikely. So I get that. It just feels like we flip-flop so much. As I said earlier, 2 weeks ago, it's like, you can't have De Bruyne. Look at his returns on this value. And 1 game, and it's like, oh my God. And City, you've got a game rearranged, have to get De Bruyne back. These guys are world-class. Salah, Fernandes, De Bruyne. They're world-class players. They're going to have spells of blanks, which, to be honest, Bruno Fernandes is now the one that's due a little run of blanks, right?
Yep.
But they're all going to continue to tick over in terms of being unbelievable at the returns of points. So if the question is, would I rather have Salah or Kane, for example, in the double, then I'd rather have Salah. But if I'm not free hitting in 18 and Kane's playing Villa and Salah's not playing, then I'm probably thinking, well, I'd have Kane and then I'll make the decision next week, is probably what I'd be thinking. So it depends a lot on what your strategy is, but I'm not worried about Salah, and I'll probably captain him. I realise there's data out there saying his average position or the amount of shots per game is a little bit down. But then Liverpool as a team ain't been performing how they've been playing last season, right? I also
won
know
a game for 4 games or something.
Well,
crazy.
Yeah, I get that. And listen, I'm there.
It's going to change.
I'm there after Palace game. This is finished, and none of us foresaw us get 2 points out of those 3 games, right? And they've opened the door for everybody again. They can quickly pull away. They've got a tough run of games. You would like to think it will focus minds. For me, as I said, I'm probably looking to move Salah off after the double. At the moment, he's probably my captain.
FPL Bulldog just had an awful week, but I'm in good shape for bench boost in Double Gameweek 19 and will free hit this week. Please give words of comfort that there are loads of casuals out there that will mess this up, and I am not one of them. It's just a difficult season this season.
There are a lot of people who will log in to do their team on Friday, then not understand that the deadline is Tuesday, and then not understand why there's 8 teams not playing.
Yeah.
And won't even look at 19 and understand what's going to happen afterwards. That then, oh my God, there's 6 teams with a double game week then. So, yeah, there's a few clearly who are not engaged as much who are going to struggle through this period. So, yes, for those of us who are engaged thoroughly in the game, yes, this should be a period of strength. Should be.
So I've got my cousin who does very well at FPL, and he is as casual comes, James. But just for FPL Bulldogs' benefit, and giving you words of comfort that there are loads of people, casuals, that are going to mess this up. His messages to me, I should screen grab and put on my Twitter feed, because I reckon I'll pick up from followers. Oh my God, did my team. I put Creswell in over Stones and forgot to hit save. Oh shit. And then he has somebody didn't play, and then Creswell comes in on an auto rank. And he'll send me stuff like, I'm in the top 40K. If only I'd not had Martinez, I would have been top 20K or something. This is getting shit now. Like, first world problems of all first world problems. You're moaning to me that you're 40K instead of 20K. I just, yeah. And because he's family, I can't just bin him off. So, you know what? It's just a tough season. The way I look at it right now, my rank's 990K. After game week 1, my overall rank was 2.3 million. So if I do in the second half of the season what I've done in the first half of the season, I'll finish all right. And I've got the chips in hand now as well. And we'll also obviously see a lot of managers get disengaged with the game now. So not overly worried, mate. Not overly worried. And let's leave the last question of the show to our friend Luke at FF Scout _ Luke Disable. Is Trent dog shite? What's happened to TAA?
Yeah, it's interesting because I said on one of my streams last week he's beginning to defend better.
Yeah.
And then that, like, I don't know what that was. I just on the goal, I really don't know what it is at all. It was like he jumped in the air and he was like, "Shit, I'm going to handle it." And then it was weird. He got out of the way. In terms of from an FPL perspective, the attacking returns aren't there at the moment, which for his value is obviously like, I mean, what's going on here? And obviously, if they keep a clean sheet, it tends to feel at the moment Robertson's more likely to get the bonus than Trent as well. So the forwards are, Mane's not had a great season, let's be honest. Firmino is never one who's big on the goals, and Salah's been quiet at the moment, so that's going to have an impact from an FPL perspective. In terms of just all-round play, he's not better than Reece James in terms of who will play right wing back for England if that's the system that we start with. We should play Reece James in that system. You can have Trent as wing back. It's right back or don't play for me. And there's always been question marks about defensive quality. Concentration is an issue. Gets done by runners in behind. So that's why, to be honest, like from a Tottenham perspective, every time we played him, I think, Son could do him over. I always think that more than what he could do to us. I always think, Son could do him over. Whereas I wouldn't fancy Son in a matchup against Reece James, for example. So I think, obviously, in FPL circles, we hold some players very differently to how we hold other players. So, I mean, Matt Doherty's prime example, right? No one was talking about him last year. He's everyone's darling last year. Now I watch him every week. I realise he's not very good. So, if Trent's returns dry up in terms of attacking returns, we stop scoring free kicks, stop setting people up, etc. Then what do you focus on? You focus on the player's weaknesses. Okay, why is this not happening? Oh shit, if I look at it thoroughly, he's actually not very good defensively. He's never at any point been good defensively, Trent. I thought, and I said it, as I said on one of my streams last week, I thought one of the reasons might be because he's getting better defensively. But he has idiot moments. Him and Carl Walker should start a party or something.
Yeah. Interesting. There we go, James. Another episode in the can for the listeners. As always, wherever you're listening to the podcast, if you don't mind hitting the subscribe button or the notification bell, it will mean more people get to listen to us and you get notified as soon as any podcasts go live. Do you want to give everybody the rest of the schedule for this week, James? And then I'll tell them how they can send us money.
Okay, mate. Sky Fantasy Football Podcast tomorrow. Little bit of a break, but a massive period coming up in that game, obviously, as it is in FPL as well. Thursday, I'll be streaming Ask James. Friday, Clash to Correspondence, FPL Pringle, FPL Seagull, previewing Manchester City and Brighton for the Blank Gameweek. Monday, I think we will do a full pod. We'll update any thoughts from FA Cup, and it's day before Blank Gameweek 18 deadline. So we'll give updated thoughts. A lot of the things we can't answer now are like all concerns on Martial rotation and stuff like that. We've probably got more information next Monday to be able to analyse that before 4:30 deadline UK next Tuesday, I think. I'm guessing.
Something like that. Those were the free podcasts that we release, obviously, every weekday for all of you to listen to. If you're in the market for additional FPL content, then you can subscribe to our Patreon, patreon.com/Planet FPL, as well as an additional show every single weekday. You also get access to our Slack channel. We have some cash prize leagues and various other bits and pieces as well. The Slack channel is a really good place to interact with other FPL managers. There's well over 300 people in there now.
It's a really bloody nice version of Twitter.
Yeah, exactly. So do head over to patreon.com if you are interested in chucking a couple of coins in the can. Other than that, we know that in the UK we're in lockdown. Everywhere else there are increases in the cases of COVID. Stay at home, please, and stay safe. Ciao for now.
Thanks, everyone. Be nice to each other. Cue music, please, man child.